She walked through the narrow street, where the lamps hummed and the night folded over her shoulders like a quiet confession. Her hands were trembling not from the cold but from the weight of what she had done. The world around her seemed to move slower, as if time itself wanted to spare her heart from breaking too fast. She had always been the one who stood between them and the storm ever since their mother's laughter faded into silence and their father's footsteps disappeared into memory. She became both shelter and wall, both warmth and warning. Her siblings slept in a room too small to hold their dreams. The youngest still clung to her hand in sleep, his breath soft against the night. She would sit beside him, sometimes tracing the outline of his small fingers and wondering if he would ever know what she had traded for his peace. They thought she was strong, they thought she was fearless, but strength is only what you show when you have no choice, and fear is the companion of every sacrifice. The house smelled of bread and old wood, the walls carried echoes of laughter long gone. She would close her eyes and see their faces, younger, brighter, untouched by what she had seen. She had promised herself that their innocence would survive, even if she did not. She took jobs that left her hands cracked and her voice hoarse. She smiled when the world gave her reasons not to. She lied when truth could have crushed them. She hid scars beneath sleeves and stories beneath smiles. Each morning, she watched them eat toast and argue about small things: school friends, homework, shoes too tight and dreams too big. She loved those sounds. They reminded her that the world still moved forward, that even in the smallest chaos, there was life, and in life there was meaning. She never let them see her count coins twice. She never let them see her skip meals. She laughed with them. She told them everything would be fine, and maybe for a moment she even believed it. But nights were harder. Nights were the hours when silence turned into memory, when her body ached and her mind replayed the things she could not speak of. She worked in places where voices turned sharp and hands turned cruel. She did what she had to do, not because she was fearless, but because she could not bear to see them afraid. She would walk home before dawn, her shoes soaked, her soul hollow, yet her heart still beating steady for them, always for them. Sometimes she would pass by the river where the city lights broke on the surface like shattered glass. She would stand there and let the wind pull the tears from her face. She would whisper to the night promises it already knew. She would never tell them why she came home bruised. She would never tell them who she faced when she had no protection. She would never tell them that the world demanded a price for safety, and she had paid it in silence. When the oldest of her brothers started talking about leaving, about chasing dreams and moving away, her heart twisted with both pride and grief. She wanted him to see more than this small corner of the world. She wanted him to rise higher than she ever could, but the thought of him walking out into a world she knew too well terrified her. She smiled anyway. She told him he was born for greater things, that he must go even if it meant she would stay alone. Every lie she spoke was stitched with love. Every secret she buried was a seed of protection. She carried the guilt like a second heartbeat. It pulsed in her every time they laughed. It reminded her that their joy was built upon her silence, and yet she would do it again without hesitation. The pain had become her shadow, familiar, faithful, a reminder that love in its truest form asks nothing and gives everything. One evening the sky turned red with the kind of sunset that feels like an ending. She stood at the window and watched the light fade. Her reflection stared back, tired eyes, soft sorrow. She heard them in the next room, laughing, sharing stories, arguing over nothing at all. Her chest ached with a sweetness that hurt. She realized then that love was not always loud or celebrated. Sometimes it was quiet and invisible. It existed in the small unspoken acts that no one would ever know. A knock came at the door, a sound that made her blood freeze. She knew that sound. She had been waiting for it in her nightmares. The past had finally caught up with her, the choices she had made, the debts she had hidden, the people she had crossed to keep them safe. She opened the door with steady hands. The man standing there wore a face she remembered and feared. He said her name softly, too softly, and the world seemed to tilt. She stepped outside, closed the door behind her. She smiled because she knew they would not hear. She walked with him down the street, her shadow stretching long and thin across the pavement. She thought of her siblings asleep inside, unaware that the world beyond their window had come to collect its due. She did not beg, she did not run. She simply walked into the darkness she had already known too well. The night was cold, but she barely felt it. The streetlight flickered above like a pulse of fate. She could hear the echo of their laughter behind the walls she had left, and that sound was enough to keep her steady. The man spoke words. She no longer listened to threats, promises, debts. It all blended into the hum of the city. She only thought of their faces. How peaceful they were, how safe they felt, because she had never let the storm touch them. She had for warmth and bread. She remembered thinking she would do it once, but once had turned into forever. She told herself it was temporary. But love rarely gives you a clean escape, each decision tangled into the next, until her soul was wrapped in invisible chains. She carried it all without a sound because their laughter was her absolution. As she stood there now facing the end, she felt no fear, only exhaustion, and a strange calm like waves retreating after a storm. She thought of her sister's drawings taped on the wall, the bright colors that tried to chase away the gray. She thought of her brother's laughter that echoed like music. She thought of mornings when sunlight spilled across the table, and for a moment she could almost believe she belonged in that light. She closed her eyes and saw them all safe, untouched, whole. The man raised his hand not in anger but in duty, and she understood she had entered this moment long ago. When she first chose to carry their pain, she whispered a name not her own but theirs and smiled as if the world could hear her surrender. The sound that followed was not loud, it was small, almost tender, like the breaking of a heart that had already been broken too many times before. She fell softly as if the earth caught her gently, unwilling to hurt what was already hurting. The city moved on as cities always do. The night closed around her, and the wind carried her last breath. Away the stars looked down, indifferent but bright. Somewhere not far away her siblings stirred in their sleep. One of them sat up for a moment, feeling something shift in the air, a whisper of cold, a shiver of grief that had no name, then drifted back into dreams. They would wake to morning light and never know what the night had taken from them. Days passed and turned into weeks. Her absence became a quiet mystery. They asked about her at first, then less often. The world filled the silence with small explanations. Work, travel, distance, life moved forward as it always does. But sometimes, when the youngest sat alone, he swore he could still hear her voice like a hum beneath the noise of the day, a soft promise that she was still there somewhere between light and memory. The house remained standing. The walls still held the warmth she had built into them, though no one noticed how every corner seemed to breathe her love. Her sister grew older and found a job. Her brother left for college, carrying with him the lessons he never realized. She had taught him to be kind, to be brave, to protect those who cannot protect themselves. He thought those values were his own, but they were hers, planted deep in his soul through years of silent sacrifice. The city forgot her name, but love does not need monuments. It leaves traces in the smallest things in the way. They hold each other in the way. They never stop believing that goodness exists in the world. They will never know the darkness she walked through for them, but that is how she wanted it to be. Her love was meant to be invisible, unseen, but eternal. Sometimes at night, when the wind brushed against the windows, her sister would feel something like a presence, gentle and warm, as if someone stood just beyond the light, watching, protecting, waiting. The feeling would fade, but peace would linger. She would smile without knowing why and whisper good night into the dark. Love is not always loud. Sometimes it is silent. Sometimes it hides in sacrifice, in the spaces between words and the choices no one sees. She had given everything so that they could live without the weight she carried. She had become the shadow that kept the fire burning, and though she was gone, she had not disappeared. She had simply become the quiet that held them together. And in that quiet she remained forever, the unseen guardian, the gentle echo of a life that ended so theirs could begin, the invisible proof that love is strongest when it asks for nothing in return. Description: a sister's love is quiet. It hides in the dark. It gives everything and asks for nothing. This is the story of a young woman who risked everything to protect her siblings, and carried her pain in silence so they could live without fear.